Well, that's a cool song. And I think that's called Invitation to the Castle. And when you're looking at such a regal machine like the Free Westinghouse, again, a machine that is 75 years old, born back in 1944, that type of music just seems to fit, which is why I chose it. And when it comes to stitching, this Free Westinghouse, quite honestly, is hard to beat. The spacing, the formation of that stitch, and the lock stitch as well through 4 layers of heavy grade denim. You know what? That's not an easy task. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've been contacted by someone that buys a machine, and no knock against Walmart, but against Walmart or one of the other major retailers, one of these new plastic ones out of Taiwan or the like. And they'll say, Scott, all I'm trying to do is sew 4 layers or 3 layers of denim, and this thing won't get the job done. I've heard it so many times, it's like a broken record. But that's why we go vintage, because vintage is going to allow you to do things that in the realm of contemporary machines, in many ways almost seems like a superpower. Let me put on one other tune, and then we'll do some more sewing with this Free Westinghouse. So here we have 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas, and really what I wanted to show, kind of like the recent sew-off I did on Paula's machine, is that you can do heavy-duty sewing and have crazy maneuverability, making turns like this. I know it looks like a probably almost like a seashell or something like that, but really what I'm trying to show you is that if you need maneuverability, if you need to be able to sew heavy grade, whether it's for quilting or otherwise, this machine will get the job done and then some. Beautiful stitching, absolutely beautiful stitching. What next? I think what I'd like to do next is a material that I've never sewn on this channel before, and that is sometimes called a gunny sack or a potato sack. But what we have here, as we see it right now, is 2 layers. I fold it in half, and all of a sudden we're up to 4. And if I fold it again, we're all the way up to 8 layers of this material. This material, as you know, the vintage version of it is called burlap, and it's one of the toughest materials to try to go through with a needle. It's almost like steel wool when it comes to its composition. And considering the color choice of the thread that I picked, because I wanted it to match the beauty of this Free Westinghouse, I'm going to wrap it with a light piece of polyester cotton so that we're going to be able to hopefully see the stitching through these 8 layers of this burlap. I'm hoping so. I haven't tried this yet, so we'll see if it works. If I can actually fit it underneath the presser foot, that is. It's going to be real snug. Oh my goodness, that's snug. Really snug. Okay, we'll see what happens. 8 I hate when I say that, but it's true. 8 layers of this gunny sack material. It's a burlap material. It's actually burlap. And then I've got this cotton polyester on top of it, so hopefully we'll be able to see the stitching. Otherwise it would just totally blend in with the burlap. Let's see what happens. I started to look up at the thread and I almost got my finger caught there. That would be bad. Yeah, that worked out perfectly, exactly as I was hoping. Okay, so we've got, you can see it from the side, 8 layers of burlap, this gunny sack type material. And then I wrapped it with this polyester cotton. And I've got to kind of pull it back, but the stitch quality is absolutely spectacular. The spacing, the formation is spot on. And the same thing on the lock stitch. You just can't get any better than that. Look at it from the side. I mean, that is crazy, crazy thick. I can't even, I would say 14 to 16 ounces of material. You can see it from the end here when we just sewed it. And this free Westinghouse went through it with, like it was nothing. Like it was a light cotton material that we were sewing. So I'm extremely pleased with that. You know, again, this particular machine comes with a 0.7 amp motor. It has a pulley direct drive that goes directly against the balance wheel on the rear. And then as that motor engages, it presses into that balance wheel to give you what I refer to as positive traction. So right on the rear here, you can't see it, but there's that cool motor that you saw in the Facebook shots, and then it has that pulley that pushes right against that balance wheel to give you just incredible launch. So let's just walk through the machine real quick, and then I'll do my final sew-off, which is 2 thicknesses of genuine cowhide. So right on the bottom, to start, we've got a switch that just turns the light on and off. The machine is powered as soon as you plug it in. So if you push on that foot control, it's going to launch whether you have this switch turned or not. But this is your light switch. And then just to the left of it, they want to make it real easy, and they want to tell you that this rotary, my camera will cooperate, this rotary machine takes a specialized needle. And I'm going to share those different needle types with you as soon as I take you around the machine real quick, just so you can appreciate how important needles can be. And along with that, I'm also going to give you an impromptu contest. So going up the side of the machine, you can see right here they proudly have a badge mark that says electrified by Westinghouse Electric. And I'll get into that when I talk a little bit about the story of the company. As a matter of fact, I'll do that right now. Right now is as good of a time as any. So the free Westinghouse sewing machine history is this. The St. John Sewing Machine Company, which was the predecessor of the Free Sewing Machine Company, was founded in 1870. In 1883, it was renamed the Royal Sewing Machine Company. So I think it's kind of befitting that the opening piece that I played as the video started on this premiere was something called Invitation to the Castle. It just had that royal sound to it, ties in beautifully to the Free Westinghouse Company back in 1883 being called the Royal Sewing Machine Company. So after the company relocated to Rockford, Illinois, and no, I'm not going to say go Bears. No way is that going to happen. But it did relocate to Rockford, Illinois, and was renamed again in 1897 as the Free Sewing Machine Company after the company president, William C. Free. So as I refer to, the word free, it's not like, oh, this is a free sewing machine, but it is by name. Free Westinghouse, because that was the origin of William C. Free. Now, most of the machines back in the day, the latter part of the 1800s, a lot of companies were selling mail order, and this company is no exception. Free Company did the majority of their sales by mail order, and they sold most of them coming out of that Rockford, Illinois location. That's where they were all being distributed from. Now, in the mid-1920s, Free became associated with Westinghouse. Here's where the story comes together, which became the sole supplier of motors and electric equipment for Free brand sewing machines. So these two came together because Free was already making the machines, and then Westinghouse said, hey, we can make the motors. And that's where everything goes back to this brand mark that you see right on the front of their machines, is electrified by the Westinghouse, Westinghouse Electric. Tongue twister. So they worked together beautifully from around the 1920s all the way into 1926, when Free continued to be associated with distributing them, and then eventually decommissioned Free Westinghouse going into the 1950s. A lot of facts there, and I hopefully didn't muddle them too poorly, but I think information like that is helpful just so you can appreciate the roots and the history of how this machine in front of you, which, believe it or not, is 75 years old, this machine right here, all came together. All thanks to William C. Free and his company partnering with Westinghouse to put together motorized machines. So we come up the side of this machine right here, and the first thing I'm going to show you is it's got a unique bobbin winder. You kind of push this up, and it locks into place and makes contact with the balance wheel once you obviously disengage the clutch. I've got to spin my screen around to see what you're seeing. And once that bobbin fills up to a certain point, it's going to automatically disengage. Now I'll share a story with you. As I was pulling this machine out of my personal collection, and again, all of my machines from my personal collection, they are original owner machines. Why is that significant? Because the biggest struggle when you get a machine is knowing the history of it, how it was taken care of, how it was procured, how it was managed. Any machine you get from my personal collection, and I've offered a number of them recently, most of which are already gone, you know that history goes all the way back to that original owner that bought this machine brand spanking new. And I bought the machine from that individual or a family member that inherited it and for some reason didn't want to keep the machine. That's big stuff, because we know how these machines have been taken care of and how they've been managed, because there's only been two owners, the original and myself. The other thing I'll tell you, a little life hack real quick, is as I started to sit down to this machine, get reacquainted with it, and if you do Facebook, you've seen those pictures of me going through the machine. And if you don't do Facebook, for goodness sakes, set up a private account so that you can see all the cool pictures that I post of the process that I take these machines through. It really will give you a deeper appreciation for what's the difference with a machine off of Scott's Workbench versus one that you buy from eBay, Craigslist, or anywhere else. Let me just say this, it's a world of difference. And I can hear already, for you faithful folks that follow me on Facebook, a lot of amens, because you know how surgically I go through machines. And if you go to Facebook and look at the shots that I posted of me going through this 1944 Free Westinghouse, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But the thing that I discovered is I only had one bobbin. I only had one bobbin for this machine. Maybe they got misplaced when I relocated my workshop about 6 months ago. It's hard to say. But I started experimenting and using my caliper to measure other bobbins that I had that might potentially work. And here's your free life hack if you happen to own this model of Free Westinghouse, which is a Type E. The bobbins for the featherweight, the bobbins for the Singer 301, the Singer 301A are a perfect match for this Free Westinghouse Type E model. And they look just like this. Matter of fact, I'll put one on. Actually, you have to hold the wheel to put it on properly. There we go. These bobbins are a perfect fit for the bobbin case and for sewing a perfect stitch with this Free Westinghouse. A featherweight 301 bobbin. That's your free life hack. I'm not going to share all my secrets with you. No way. But I will share this one with you, because initially, before I started doing my caliper measurements, which is down to hundredths and even thousandths of an inch, I was like, oh shoot, how can I offer a machine for sale if I only have one bobbin? This was my solution. So it is a perfect match, and any of you that are out there and have been struggling with the same thing, you need not struggle anymore. All right, so we come over to this control center right here, and this is obviously going to be our stitch length. You can see it goes from 0 all the way up to, I'm going to move this so you can see the top of it, from 0 to 22. That's an interesting number, isn't it? Usually like 6 to 30 or 5 to 30 or something like that, but the free Westinghouse model, this type E, goes from 0 to 22, and then at the top is obviously, it's going to give you a stitch length of 6, which is going to be your longest stitch length that I've used for most of the sew-offs. And the little control right to the right of the stitch length, right here, like a lot of the Singer models, it's going to allow you to set a boundary as far as that stitch length, how high it can go or how low it can go, by simply turning that counterclockwise and then moving it to the point that you want and then screwing it back into place again to lock that in. That way, if you're dealing with a project where stitch length is real essential and you don't want to accidentally have it move on you, they've given you that set point so you can lock it into place. So we're coming over the top of the machine now, and you can see we've got a spool pin to the right there, and that's obviously going to be the spool pin that you're going to use if you are winding a bobbin. And winding a bobbin is not too tough on this. You just come off the top. I'll actually show you by zooming in. You come off the top and thread through that guide right there on top. Then you're going to come through this tension disc. You're then going to come down to where the bobbin is going to seat. Once I get it into focus here. And again, when you do that initial wrap around the bobbin so you can wind that bobbin, make sure you take into account that this machine is going to wind backwards. In other words, when this machine is winding, when it's running, when you're pulling the thread up, you're going to be rotating that balance wheel to the rear of the machine instead of to the front of the machine as you normally would. And then once you get that bobbin on, as I showed you already, just push that up into place so it makes contact with the balance wheel. And then once it fills to a certain point, it's going to automatically disengage. Pretty doggone progressive for 1944 to have that auto disengage. A lot of companies didn't catch up with that for quite a while. So then we thread the machine by coming from the thread spool pin right here over the top of the faceplate right there through that thread guide. And then what you can't see is then across the front of the faceplate, after you go through this tensioner right here, you're going to bring the thread straight down through that tensioner. You're then going to have another thread point after you go to the take-up arm, and then eventually you're going to come down. And I realize this isn't horribly helpful because I can't move the machine around and show you. You're going to come down to this final thread point right here, this thread guide right there just above the needle. And then you're going to thread this machine from left to right. And if I didn't say it in the introduction, I don't think I did, you're going to want to make sure when you put that needle in that you put the flat side of the needle to the right. You can also see that this free Westinghouse has a unique clamping mechanism where you will slide that presser foot attachment in between, and then it's going to screw down as you turn that, and it's going to basically clamp onto that presser foot attachment. I think that's kind of cool. It's almost going to be classic of some of the other rotary machines as well. So this is a good time to talk a little bit more about the needle, and I kind of alluded to that before. Let me lock this in place. Hopefully I'm close enough. Okay, there we go. So I was alluding to the fact that it has a special needle that you're going to need to be aware of with this machine. I'm going to kind of slide that over here, and hopefully that kind of holds it in place. So what you can see in this little shot right now is you can see that I have 4 different needles mounted on this piece of buckram. The needle on the far left, needle number 1, is obviously the longest one. And that's the needle that would have gone into that Sears and Roebuck, Minnesota that I presented many months ago. That customer, you might remember, drove all the way from Milwaukee up to Oconto, which is probably close to 3 hours. So she could personally bring her Sears and Roebuck, Minnesota to me, and then I had presented a video on that. You'll want to look it up because it covers a lot of cool stuff, including the fact that that particular machine takes a specialized needle, which is that needle on the far left. The next needle over on from the left, 2 places over from the left, blah, 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 is a standard Schmetz size 14 needle that I've used many times from these workbenches. And that's really the significance of these 4 needles, is that all of these needles have been used on some machine that's been on one of my workbenches. So again, number 1, the Sears and Roebuck, Minnesota. The second one over from the left, the standard Schmetz size 14. That's been used multiple times on these workbenches. The next one over, the 3rd needle from the left, is going to be the needle that this free Westinghouse takes. Now, before you get nervous and say, oh my God, it takes a specialized needle, what if I can't get them? Let me assure you that number 1, I'm going to supply you with extra needles if you purchase this machine. Secondly, I'm going to give you the source where they're readily available. So no worries there. But you can see visibly as you look at the Schmetz needle, which is in position 2, and the free Westinghouse needle, which is in position 3, the Westinghouse needle is noticeably shorter. And that's part of the reason I think they basically embossed on the front of the machine. You remember that? A picture of the needle, so that if you have a needle or you have a variety of different needles and you're wondering, is that going to work? You can just lay that needle down right by that image. You remember that? I think you do. Yeah, you're smart. This image right here is the one I'm referring to. You can basically just lay your needle down on top of that image and know right away whether it's going to be the appropriate length for this free Westinghouse rotary machine. So they really do make it kind of an easy deal there when it comes to knowing that you're going to have the right one. So again, in position 3 is the needle that this machine uses. Finally, on the far right, in position 4, is the needle that you will use if you have a Singer So Handy toy machine. And that's why I put it up near the workbench so I could actually go over to it, because I've done a video on this machine on the channel as well, if you want to check that out. But this So Handy electric kids sewing machine, which generates a chain stitch, is going to use the needle on the far right, position number 4. So you can see when you look at the needles side by side, the only needle that really, actually I should say the only 2 needles that really stand out is the one on the far left, which goes with that Sears and Roebuck Minnesota model, and then the needle that we're using in position 3, because it's noticeably shorter than any of those needles. And interestingly, as you compare it to the toy sewing machine needle on the far right, that toy sewing machine needle is about the same length as that Schmetz needle when you look at them side by side. But it's going to have some slightly different characteristics. Now, if any of you either own or thinking about owning a Singer So Handy toy machine, I know they're really popular for the, if you want to get one for your grandson, your granddaughter, or something like that. This is the needle. I'm going to kind of set it up here. This is the needle that you'll need for that Singer So Handy sewing machine. Otherwise, you're going to have a real headache trying to get it to work. This one right here. So you can see it's the size of the needle is a 15 by 1, and then it's a size 11. That's the needle you'll need for that Singer So Handy. So I wanted to point that out as well, just as I did this comparison of needles. Now, a quick impromptu contest for you if you're part of this premiere. The quick impromptu contest is, I want you to tell me the different parts of the needle. And you might be saying, I didn't know there were really a whole lot of different parts of the needle. Well, depending on who you believe on the internet, there's going to be 10 parts to a standard sewing needle for a sewing machine. And if you can name those 10 parts and post it with this announcement, this premiere announcement on Facebook, I'll send you something special if you're the first one to post them. And if you can post them from the top of the needle to the bottom of the needle. So from the very top that goes into the needle shank all the way down to the very pinpoint of the needle on the bottom. That's how I would like you to list them if possible. And again, you should be able to find 10 different parts to that needle that you can list. Okay? So I love giving stuff away. It kind of inspires you to learn, and it also gives me a chance to interact with you and just share something special to acknowledge that you stepped out of the shadows. So the final sew-off I'm going to do, I've already done a bunch of them, but the final sew-off I'm going to do is 2 layers of genuine cowhide. And we're talking probably about 8 ounces of leather. I could have gone higher. I chose not to. So I'm going to do 2 layers of that. I'm going to find some other music to throw on when I do that. And then we're going to wrap this video up. Again, this machine is available for sale. So I would definitely encourage you to consider stepping forward and expressing your interest right on. Most of my machines don't last too long. So this next piece I'm going to put on is called The Bronx is Burning. If you're from New York, it ain't personal, it's business, okay? The Bronx is burning. I have no idea what they're talking about. Maybe some sort of a fire that occurred in the past, but so let me zoom back down and we'll do our final sew-off with this dramatic music playing in the background. I'm gonna flip my screen around. Again, if you decide you want to hand start a machine like this, make sure you hand start it by rotating that balance wheel to the rear. Here we go. I took that way too easy. Look at that stitch. Absolutely perfect top stitch in every way. The spacing, the formation is just absolutely spot on. Maybe if I bring my light in, you can even see it better. And our lock stitch, just as gorgeous. Through again 2 layers of genuine cowhide. That is kind of a dramatic sound as you're thinking about the Bronx burning. It's kind of a dark song, I guess, a little bit, isn't it? So let me line these sew-offs that we've done. We've done quite a few of them on this 1944 free Westinghouse. I believe the first one we did was 4 layers of genuine cotton. We then did the 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. I'm going to have to kind of put that one in front a little bit or something because it's kind of bulky. I'll put it in the middle. We'll have to kind of shift them around. Then we did the burlap from the gunny sack, the 8 layers of that. And then we finally wrapped it up with the leather sew-off. Let me broaden this shot a little bit so you can see those more readily. So really what I wanted to try to do for you is show you a wide variety of sew-offs, just to give you an appreciation for really just how phenomenal this free Westinghouse is. So there we've got our, on the first one there, a little bit hard to see, I know, because it's a lighter colored thread against the 4 layers of heavy grade denim, but absolutely beautiful stitching there. And again, look at the end of that as far as the thickness of what we went through. Then we did just our buzz around for kicks and giggles, the 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Let me tell you, I get people that contact me all the time saying they picked up a machine from a major retailer, one of the plastic ones, you know what I'm talking about, and they're trying to do some basic stitching with it, and they can't even do the half of what you're seeing right here. 2 layers of this U.S. Army grade canvas. And we've got 4 layers here, and we were just buzzing around, just having fun, and the machine was going through it like it was butter. Then we finally did what is really the first time of doing it on this channel. I took an old vintage gunny sack and cut it down and then folded it so that it was 8 layers thick. And again, when it comes to this this burlap type material, it's almost like steel wool. It's incredibly difficult to get through with a needle. And we buzzed through 8 layers of it like it was just, like a hiccup. And I put that polyester cotton over it on the top and bottom so you could see the stitches more readily. And maybe if I pick it up a little bit or shift it around a little bit, you can see that easier. But the stitch quality that this 1944 free Westinghouse puts out is really just absolutely phenomenal when it comes to generating a beautiful stitch. And these 2 layers of genuine cowhide are no exception. You can see as we go across, the stitch spacing, the stitch formation is just absolutely spot on. And again, you know, I make things look really easy on this channel because of the way I prepare the machines that I present to you. Don't be fooled when it comes to going through even 2 layers of genuine cowhide. It's nothing to scoff at. It is a major, major undertaking for most sewing machines. So when it comes to the machines that I choose to pull out of my personal collection, I do it, and actually that shot's not going to help me much if you want to actually see me in the shot. I'll kind of squunch down a little bit, maybe that'll help. But I picked these machines very specifically because they're original owner machines, and they're machines that I think that with your love for vintage, that you'll find them as fascinating as I do, and that you'll want to make them a part of your collection as well. And this one is probably one of the coolest machines that I've ever collected. That bronzy look to it, the rotary power where it has that positive traction of that pulley right up against the balance wheel on the rear, and as that motor engages, it presses that pulley into the balance wheel to give you incredible launch when it comes to heavy duty sewing. So when it comes to, from a standpoint of power, when it comes from a standpoint of the overall workspace on this Westinghouse, it's like a long arm really. Between the needle and the pillar is 9 to 10 inches. I mean, that's a lot of workspace for turning materials. And that 0.7 amp motor will get the job done. Again, it's a bigger overall motor than even the Singer 201-2 or the Singer 1591. And it's got that benefit of that drive system that's going to give you that harnessing power if you want to launch into material, or if you want to control that as well as I did when I was doing that little circle on the 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. So reach out, take a step forward, and you can make this really unique 1944 free Westinghouse a part of your personal collection. From my personal collection to yours. God bless you guys. Stay tuned for more great videos like this.